All right. So you will see some questions. Did I show you guys an actual question from yesterday from the quiz? All right, so let me show you what the question will look like. It's actually a trade-off and an opportunity cost question in the exact same location. Looks like, sorry, hold on. All right, so we'll get this one. Okay, so the question itself is all right here, right? So this graph is the same graph, and you'll notice I tried to make everything right on the line. So use these dots. I put the dots on here on purpose to make your life a little bit easier. Right? So if I look at this question, what is the trade-off in Teslas if Hollow's Auto Store builds 300 Harleys? Right? So you come down here. These are by 50s. So this would be 300 right here. So I come up here and I come over. Okay, and that is by 8s, or I'm sorry, by 6s. So that would be 60. All right, so it's the simple trade-off up to the dot right here and over. There's your 60. And then what is the opportunity cost in Teslas if Hollow's Auto Store builds 300 Harleys? So again, I'm over here to 60. I could have made 66. So what did I lose out on? 6. I lost 6 possible Teslas. Okay, so that's what the questions look like. You'll have the trade-off first. What's the trade-off? And then what did I lose out on? That way it's all in one question. Makes it a little bit easier. Not 100% easier, but a little bit easier. So that's what the questions will look like. Matter of fact, that's one of the questions. Okay. All right. Then we got into this slide regarding future production possibilities curve. And I gave you guys examples from around here. And you guys could probably, well, I'll tell you right now, Chef and Restaurant, if they could, they'd expand, because I know that they pulled in, $4,000 last week from that family cert delivery. That's crazy. That's awesome. Right? But that would be like, if that business was outside of the school, this would be the opportunity to go, okay, this is where we've been, but we are like, we're maxed out. We can't do any more. Let's get another building and hire more people, right? That would be that future production possibilities curve. But yeah, that's impressive. That's awesome. I'm happy for you guys. I know it keeps you busy. Sometimes busy is better than not busy, though. And then that point right there, there is a question that you guys will see directly using this phrase, underutilization, right? That would have been like someone that was supposed to be like, if Logan isn't there today because he's not here right now, that means you're down a person. Something's not good. So now we have to pick up the slack, right? So you run into that in pretty much any industry where somebody doesn't show or something's not working right. Now this one, you guys, I think were writing this down, and I kind of finished up yesterday. This is something that tends to be the barrier to entry or a distractor from opening businesses. A lot of people, when they look at opening up a business, there's a lot of money involved. Or let me rephrase, there can be a lot of money involved to start the business. There are other ones where you don't need as much money. Like a couple of years back, I had a student who told me that he was cutting his lawn with his mom and dad's lawnmower. Kind of like a nicer, big lawnmower, just a normal, traditional one-blade switch mower. And the neighbor came out and said, "Hey, would you mind cutting my lawn? I'll pay you $20." And it wasn't a big, huge yard, so he's like, "Yeah, sure." So he made $20. And the neighbor on the other side of his parents said, "Hey, would you cut my lawn? I'll give you $30." And again, he didn't even ask for them. He didn't go to their houses. They just volunteered. They just couldn't do it that day. And he thought, man, this is kind of easy stuff. I like cutting the lawn. And so he then kind of went up and down the street. And his parents were like perfectly fine with it. And I think he pulled in, I think it was his like freshman year, pulled in maybe $1,000 over a 2 or 3 month period. And so he saved and saved, and he made some decent money. And then he took that money the following, I think it was the end of that summer or late fall, and bought himself a nice 3-blade walk behind. Okay, I can hear your music. You gotta turn it down. Yeah. I hear somebody's music. Okay. Thank you. So with that in mind, he went out and invested in a nice big one. He found himself like a rickety little trailer, nothing even special, just big enough to hold his three-blade mower, and went around the neighborhood, went a couple streets away. That was his sophomore year. He had just gotten his license, and so he was able to. He was telling me again, he pulled in maybe $4,000 or $5,000 that following summer, and it was just him. And then he started getting people's. It was then word of mouth, and all of a sudden, he was doing more and more lawns. He had to hire a friend to come help him. They got a weed whacker. They bought another small push mower, leaf blower, some other things. And by the end of his senior year, he had 2 of his friends working with him, and he had pulled in. I think he was like around $8,000 to $10,000. Going. This was actually because I had him in the fall. So it would have been, he was still working. He's like, yeah, this was his junior year, his junior summer. He was pulling in $8,000 to $10,000 in the summer. Right. That one was an easier version, right? Because of the law of increasing costs. Like I take this and I have to invest money back into it, and I get more money out of it. Some companies struggle with this, but the idea here with this one is kind of the dorky one, is the watermelons versus shoe factory. If I'm making more money making watermelons, well, then I tear down all of the factories making shoes, and I start to focus on just the watermelons. There's something else I don't test you guys on. It's called an economy of scale. Does anybody know anyone who's in a landscaping company?
I know one of my friends that's in, he's a junior and he has his own like landscape.
Does he use a truck during the summer?
He has one. He has a truck here. Yeah,
Okay.
He drives it every day.
Do you know someone in the landscaping industry?
Yeah, the landscape of the
Okay. Anybody else? What do they do in the winter when they can't do lawns? What can they do? Yeah. A lot of them will plow. Yeah, I got the truck, but I can't do the lawns under snow, but I can plow. So a lot of them will invest in just a plow, and it sits down. It sits like in a storage area off to the side for the summer, and then during the winter time they put the trucks. I'm not sure if your friend does this or not. But it's called an economy of scale. I've already got the trucks. Why would I not also do this? Yeah.
Me and my friends actually did that Christmas Day, and we got there 1 in the morning where they're shoveling driveways.
Yeah.
And we made like $300 something just for the one night.
Yeah.
So,
And that was a pretty
yeah.
intense. That was pretty good. Like, I would have probably paid you because I didn't want to do it. But the other one too that you guys live with used to be internet companies, and then you'd have your phone lines, and then we started going digital for everything. So the cable companies started offering what? Internet. Right? I've already got the cables run. I can run it in the same system. Might as well also. So that's an economy of scale. So when you look at law of increasing costs, that's kind of the idea. Is I'm investing in, so I'm putting money up front to get money back later on. So the law of increasing costs. How does this apply to education? Think about the Career Center specifically. How does the law of increasing costs apply to us?
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I mean, with the increasing costs, it's mainly to teach us about.
Yeah, like physically, you're learning the human capital of this.
Yeah.
But where do you guys see it here at the Career Center? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that we have, and this year's been a struggle for us, but typically we have a community meeting where we have people come in from the community in your industry, and we say, hey, what are you guys using right now that we need to be using? Because if we're teaching them the old ways, how are they going to be able to jump into the career right now in your way and do it the way that's supposed to be happening? And so a lot of the stuff that we've been doing, technology wise too, right? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? So there's a lot of investment in, with the hopes that later on you guys will be able to take that and use it practically outside of here. Right? Technology. This is actually one of the questions that was actually on the quiz from last week, and this was where the answer came from. Right, one of the things that we look at is the land, the labor, the capital. The technology aspect of capital is massive, right? Think about how much you guys do now that's technology based. Even going back to cosmetology, the sports clips. I usually go to Sports Clips in Strongsville, and they have now the online app that you can just check in and you just show up and there you go. Right? And then as simple as checking in on who in here, does anybody still do the punch card when they go to work? Where you literally take the punch card and you like slide it into the thing and it stamps your card? Like that was original, well not even original, that was the way that you watch any of the old movies, they would come in and they would slide the piece of paper in and they would stamp it, literally put a stamp of when you got in, and then you went to lunch, you'd stamp out, and you came back from lunch, you'd stamp in, and it was all sorts of stuff. Now you guys just put code in.
Well, when I worked at we had like a time card, like we had to write, what date it was.
So you actually had to physically write what you so no punch
Yeah,
card.
we had to write from what time we got there, then we had to write it on again, what time we left.
Yeah. Does anybody in here just to enter their social security number or a code, and it registers you in, and then when you leave, you register you out? Right? That's Longhorn does that. And where do you do that? Hot Topic. Where are you?
They used to do that on the job.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So that's kind of become the new thing. Like for me at the gym, we physically put up like on a whiteboard what the kids' schedules are, and then we just put it in the computer. But yeah, a lot of the places, like I always watch the people at Giant Eagle come in and they have the punch code. Same thing as Mini Regos or you guys. But technology again supposed to make things more efficient. Now this is going to be the last little clip, and then we're going to jump over to the instructions for tomorrow for the project. But one of the things you guys have heard of Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. Right? He's been in front of Congress many, many times. This is actually one of the older versions, but he talks about the vocational training. It's just a fun story, and I'll let you guys watch this in a second. But technology and education, one of the things that happens too is if you guys are trained correctly, you guys make everything much, much more efficient. I'm not wasting time. Or if you have the basic knowledge, your boss can teach you what they want you to know. There was a couple years ago, we had a company in Medina who wanted to hire somebody who had just a basic knowledge of welding. You didn't have to be an expert in any way, shape, or form. You just had to know a little bit about welding. And then they were going to train you, and they were starting pay for, I think they were saying, they were taking juniors and seniors. Anyone who has any training, starting pay was $17. Starting. And then they would train you, and as you got better, of course, they'd increase because welders are so rare. So for anyone who's at the Career Center, has any welding experience, anybody in auto tech or truck and diesel, trying to think, PET, that would all be all those. Even I think anyone who has, yeah. But again, vocational training and technology, pretty impressive. All right. Of course. Hold on a second. Go.
There it goes.
Mike Rowe is the creator and executive producer and host of Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs.
That's true.
My wife thinks you're terrific.
Your wife has excellent taste. Give her my regards.
I will.
And thank you officially for having me here today. It really is a thrill and an honor. One small thing, the credits for the show are very kind. In truth, I'm more of a guest. I assume the role of an apprentice on Dirty Jobs, and for the last 7 years or so, I've traveled to every state and worked in just about every industry with people you would otherwise never get a chance to know. They're anonymous folks, many times in small towns you wouldn't find on a map, who do the kinds of jobs that make civilized life possible for the rest of us. In the history of TV, it's probably the simplest show ever, but there's some very big themes that run through Dirty Jobs. And over the last 6 or 7 years, I've personally had a front row seat, and I've watched the headlines catch up to a lot of those themes. Thus, the simplest show in TV has become interesting in a way that I never anticipated or intended. I could talk certainly at length about any of the people I've met in the show, and I'm tempted to, but I'd rather take a small portion of my 5 minutes and tell you about my grandfather, because he's the reason ultimately that I decided to come here today. His name was Carl Noble, and he made his living in Baltimore as a master electrician. He was also a plumber and a mechanic, mason, carpenter. Everybody knew him as a jack of all trades. And I remember him mostly as a magician. For most of his life, my granddad woke up clean, and he came home dirty. And in between, he accomplished some things that were nothing short of miraculous to me. Some days he might reshingle a roof or rebuild a motor, run electricity out to the barn. He helped build the church that I went to as a kid and the farmhouse that I grew up in. Basically, he could fix or build anything, but to my knowledge, he never once read the directions to anything. He just knew how stuff worked. I remember one Saturday morning when I was 12, I flushed the toilet in the same way I had been flushing it for 12 years. The toilet, however, responded in a way that was completely out of character. There was a rumbling sound followed by a distant gurgle, and then everything that had gone down reappeared in a rather violent and spectacular fashion. Naturally, my granddad was called in to investigate, and within the hour, I was invited to join he and my father, who's right behind me there, out in the front yard for about 12 hours of forced labor. There was pipe welding, and there was picks, and there was shovels, and there were blisters and laughter, and maybe some questionable language. But by sunset, we were completely filthy. The new pipe was installed. The dirt was back in the hole, and our toilet was back on its best behavior. And it was one of my favorite days ever. 30 years later in San Francisco, my toilet blew up again. And this time I didn't participate in the repair process. I just called my landlord, left a check on the kitchen counter, and I went to work. And when I came home, the mess was cleaned up and the problem was solved. And as for the actual plumber who did the work, I never even met him. It had never occurred to me to meet him. What did occur to me that day was the fact that I had become disconnected from a lot of things that really used to fascinate me growing up. I no longer thought about where my food came from or how my electricity worked or who fixed my pipes or who made my clothes. I didn't think about who made anything. There was no reason to. I was less interested in how things got made, in fact, and more interested in how things got bought. Well, at this point, my granddad was well into his 80s. After a long visit with him one weekend, I decided to do a TV show in his honor. And today, Dirty Jobs is still on the air, and I'm here before you guys hoping to say something useful. So here it is. I believe that we need a national PR campaign for skilled labor, like a big one. That's something that addresses the widening skills gap head on and reconnects the country with the most important part of our workforce. Right now, American manufacturing is struggling to fill 200,000 vacant positions, I'm told. And there are 450,000 openings today in trades, transportation, and utilities. The skills gap seems real, and it's getting wider. In Alabama, a third of all skilled tradesmen are now over 55. They're retiring fast, and there's really nobody there to replace them. Alabama's not alone. A few months ago in Atlanta, I ran into Tom Vilsack, our Secretary of Agriculture. Tom told me about a governor he knows who was unable to move forward on the construction of a new power plant. The reason I thought was fascinating, it wasn't a lack of funds or a lack of support. It was a lack of qualified welders. In general, people are surprised that high unemployment can exist at the same time as a skilled labor shortage, but they shouldn't be. We've pretty much guaranteed it. In high schools, the vocational arts have all but vanished. We've elevated the importance of higher education to such a lofty perch that all other forms of knowledge are now labeled as alternative. Millions of parents and kids see apprenticeships and really valuable on-the-job training opportunities as vocational consolation prizes, best suited for those not cut out for a four-year degree. And still, we talk about creating millions of shovel-ready jobs for a society that doesn't really encourage people to pick up a shovel. In 100 different ways, I think we've slowly marginalized an entire category of critical professions, reshaping our expectations of a good job into something that no longer looks like work. A few years from now, an hour with a good plumber, if you can find one, is going to cost more than an hour with a good psychiatrist, at which point we'll probably all be in need of both. I wanted to come here today because
Right, so he kind of goes over the idea there, but one of the things, another side story that I had left, that he brought up plumbing. I want to say about 9 years ago, I had just moved into my house, and in the morning I'd gone to my basement to look for something, and there was some water kind of over by the drain area, and I thought, okay, no big deal, just a little puddle, I'll be fine. As the day went on, my buddy came over to help me work on something outside. Came back in, went to the basement to get something, and that puddle had grown to almost half the basement. And I live in a ranch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So my friend came inside, he's looking around with me, and I fiddle with some pipes and I fiddle with some water, and he's like, yeah, something's wrong. You need something coming out. So at about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, I finally get a plumber to come out. Mind you, in my mind, I'm thinking this really sucks. Now, when I got to, when the guy got there, he came downstairs, runs the snake, starts to drain out my sewage system, and he's just going at it for probably a good 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And the whole time I keep on going, so I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. I feel bad that you're doing this in the middle of the night. And he's like, really, it's okay. And it's really, it's okay. It's fine. It's okay. And I keep on apologizing. At one point, he finally stands up and he looks at me and he goes, sir, please, you have to stop apologizing. And you have to excuse my language here. Your shit's my treasure. And I went, because keep in mind, it was after midnight, so he was making double time or time and a half. And then the company he recommended that I have someone come out to do a camera scope through the system and really clean out the system. And it would be an additional $100, but he got a portion of that. So I was like, okay, this is worth it. So he got a portion of that. So again, when we look at the trades, we sometimes feel like they're undervalued, when in actuality, everyone has to eat. Everyone has to go to the bathroom. Everyone typically drives. The roads have to be working. I mean, all the things that we typically kind of, everyone needs to get their hair cut. So all that just to say that there are tons of trade-off opportunity costs, not just in finances, but in life. So, all right, let me cut over to, so that's the end of the notes. That was it for that section. Told you we'd finish it this week. Let me go over the plan for tomorrow. Okay, so when you guys come in, part 3 is officially due, and that is this one. Okay, a lot of you guys, I shouldn't say a lot of people, some of you guys have done this already, and you're good. So this is the one with the graph, the 10 companies. You have to do 10 to start for this week and next week. and then we can minimize as the time goes by, okay? And then down here, the graphs, and someone had asked me exactly what we're looking for regarding the graphs. I don't need specifics. So I will check up because sometimes people just randomly go, oh, he's not going to check, and they do that, right? I want it to be relatively accurate, right? So the one thing I want you guys to be aware of is if we're doing Twitter, and that's the year-long Twitter one, then it should look something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if I look at it and it doesn't look anything like that, then I'll grade accordingly, okay? And that's it. That's all you need to do. If you're doing the digital version, you have to cut and copy and paste onto those little spots right there. Okay, so that one's the one that's due tomorrow. So, the new one that I'm going to pass out to you guys here in a moment is the one where we're actually going to start to look at the costs, the purchasing aspect of this. So let me give you guys this one. So it makes a little more sense as you're looking at it. This one is not due until next Friday. This is the one that, if you don't do this one, the rest of the project, we can't move forward with. Okay, so now, the digital version of this, so the top again is the exact same as it has been, nothing changes there. So make sure you give me those numbers. Before you even get into anything purchasing wise, what I want you guys to do is play around with the stocks you have, okay? So this is going to be the moment in time where we decide whether we stick with Amazon or not. There we go. Before any purchasing goes on, I would come over here. This is a nice little chunk of points, so don't blow this one off. The company. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with some of your company information. Who in here has Amazon as one of theirs? AMZN, right? Okay. What's the current value of Amazon stock that you guys have listed? You guys know? Is there from your you just turned yours in. You don't have yours out. Who in here has the one from last week?
I have mine on my computer.
Yours is on your computer. So I'd be looking at this one. So even if you haven't turned that in, the chart that you guys did, does anybody have Amazon on there? Oh, okay. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, we're looking at 1,250. Okay. Now the nice thing about the digital version, you'll notice it does the math for me down here. Does anybody have Netflix? Remember that? Do you remember by any chance how much of Netflix was?
No.
Anybody else have Netflix? All right, so let's say 450. Okay. Ford at $15. I'm just throwing some random ones up here. CMG, that's expensive. I think that's 1,300. Right. Alphabet, which is actually Google, that would be 2,500. Now you can see down here at the bottom of the page, I have now passed up $5,000. So, can I use all of those stocks still? Not for the game. It's going to stop me from doing that. So I may have to go back and find other stocks. So I might have to get rid of Google and go with GM. That's $40. Right. So what I have to do in this situation is kind of reevaluate the stocks I have. Because, yeah, I might want them, but I can't afford all of them. So trade-off opportunity cost, right? Scarcity. I only have so much money. got to make some decisions. So whatever you guys do here has to be under $1,000. Okay, now, once you've done doing that, the purchasing of the stocks is actually relatively easy, and I'll show you guys how that works. So when you log in, again, if you don't remember your login stuff, come see me tomorrow. Okay. If I'm looking at this, the instructions say to go to the second row, trading. So I'm going to go here to dashboard, come down the second row, click on trading. This first one. Okay, now here's the only catch for you guys. All the other classes won't have this issue, but you guys will, because the stock market doesn't open until 9:30. So everything you guys do during my class, they're going to hold on to it. And at 9:30, everything will turn on and it'll start to purchase the stocks for you. Okay. You could still go through the motions. So let's say that I'm going to buy a stock of, let's go PepsiCo. Again, as you start to type, some of them will pop up. Pepsi company. This is all the Pepsi bottling company. Anything Pepsi makes is PepsiCo. And you'll see it pop up right here. Right, so PepsiCo, and I'm going to buy, let's see, it's $138. Let's buy 3 of those. Okay. Down here, estimated order cost, $404.12. Click to preview, $425. So if you read through this, this is the commission to the broker that we're using, the fake broker. They're getting a little bit of money from us. And then confirm. That's it. I just bought my stock. Trade again. And I'm going to go to a different company. Let's go with Harley Davidson, Hog. And they're running at 41.64. So let's buy 10 of those. Here's how much. Preview the order, $430.50. Confirm. That's it. Done. Right. So once you do it first or second time, not difficult. Now, mind you, I do it a lot easier because I've been doing this for a long time. So if you get stuck the first or second time, come see me. I'll walk you through it. Super, super. Once you do it, like I said, once or twice, you won't need my help anymore. It'll be kind of self-explanatory. Okay. So we need to make sure all of this stuff is bought by next Friday. Okay. Keeping in mind, did you guys get a phone call yesterday from the school?
Yeah.
Okay. Next Thursday, we won't have school. That's the 4th. Okay. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So Wednesday, I'll try to review some of the stuff with you guys. When you guys come back next Friday, you'll have to purchase the stocks during class. Or if you purchase them during the week, on Friday, you'll see what we need to do. Yes, sir.
My phone is broken, so why are you doing
We have the county is providing vaccinations for teachers in the county. So all of Medina County is shutting all the schools down on the 4th. Yeah. So, okay. The worksheet itself, and this will be the last thing. Once you've purchased your stocks, you're going to see a graph that looks like this pop up. Now, like I said, I can't show it to you guys right now because the stock market's not open. But when you log on the next time after you've purchased your stocks, you'll see a graph that looks like that. And then on the right-hand side of your screen down here, or paper, you'll see this right here. And you're just going to put the symbols in. It'll tell you the percentages right next to the colors. And you'll put that in there. The first big 6, they'll tell you. And then 7, I put other there because you'll literally see that on the graph. It'll have a gray one that says other. And it basically takes your other stocks and puts them all into one. So that would be the answer there. Okay, but again, that one I'm giving you guys, what I gave you today, is not due until next Friday. So you have plenty of time to play around with that one. Okay, questions that you guys can think of right now. Good. So the quiz will be over trade-off opportunity cost, the graph that you guys played around with me yesterday, and a couple of those concepts that you guys just saw today. So law of increasing costs, you might see one question. Underutilization, you'll see a question about that. the future production possibilities curve, like moving out and getting bigger. And then I think that's it. Good. Thank you for your time. And that does it for today.